I just got done doing a live listing agent training workshop with one of the agents that I'm coaching right now. And we broke down his entire business, where he's getting his leads from, how he's converting those leads into high quality listing appointments. We even break down what he's doing at the listing appointment such that he's able to win listings even against other agents with a lot more experience. And then at the end of this agent workshop, you're also going to hear a live Q&A from the live audience from other agents that I'm also coaching. And there's just so many good takeaways in this video. And so obviously, if I'm you sitting there watching this video, I'm going to take some notes. I'm going to get all the takeaways that I possibly can. And if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, okay, you're just not where you want to be yet, and you have these thoughts or visions of growing a multiple six-figure income as a listing agent, when you're ready, and perhaps that's not right now, I'm going to put a link right underneath this video. Feel free to schedule a day and time for us to have a conversation to discuss what it potentially could look like for you and I to work together in a coaching relationship at some point in the future. But for now, let's jump into this workshop so you can start to implement everything that you are about to learn. For everybody who is watching live or the replay, first off, appreciate you, like always, taking time out of your life, out of your business to really pour into other people. I don't think that agents really, no agents in our community, but like agents outside of our community, I don't know if they really appreciate what you're about to share. So for every past person who's ever been on the show and every future agent that will be on the show, I truly want to show you a huge sense of appreciation, because it's like you don't owe anything to any other agent. And the fact that you're sitting here willing to jump on this thing for 45 minutes and share all your best practice, like truly thank you. Even though some agents are just, I don't know why. I mean, they are so threatened by other agents' success. I don't know why. But thank you nonetheless, truly.
My pleasure, man. Seriously.
Yeah. So here's what we're going to do. All right. So like we do every week, we're going to go for about 45 minutes. The first 30 minutes, we're going to break down your business, your best practices, what's working, maybe some of the struggles along the way. And then we'll do 15 minutes of Q&A. So for those of you right now in the live audience, if you have a question, the way that we're going to handle Q&A today and moving forward, just raise your actual yellow Zoom hand, similar to how we would do on a coaching call. And then you can ask Jake any question that you guys have. All right. So, and we'll make sure that we've got 15 minutes at the end to do exactly that. So Jacob, let's start off with this. What market are you in, and how long have you been licensed?
I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm in like the Harrisburg area, so central PA. Been licensed for just over 3 years now, actually.
Got it. I love it. And so, what does the business from a production standpoint look like in 2024? We're doing this on November 26th, just a couple days before Thanksgiving. What's your production look like year to date?
Production year to date, I closed 25, and I was on track to close 31. Yesterday, got the call terminating, which jeopardizes the seller and the buyer because I had them on both ends. So I was on track for 31 for the year. I'm going to probably close 29 for the year.
That's great. That's great. And just for a perspective, so you're going to close about 29 sales in volume. Do you know how much volume that would be?
Yeah, it's probably, you know what, I have my numbers right here. In gross commissions, it's about, I have it right here in front of me. Gross commissions is 231. Year to date, it is average commissions. I don't know the volume, but I'm pretty much at like 2.95% average commission. Gross commissions 231.
Yeah, and so for perspective, like how does that compare to how you did your first year and how you did last year?
So my first year, I closed 16 deals. It was about 99,000. Last year, I closed 24 deals, and that was about 125. And that's after all splits, just so you guys know. And now this year, I'm just at 200 right now.
That's great. So that's nice, good growth. And so talk to us. Let's get into like how you're able to do this, right? So
Sure.
do you want to share any mistakes that you made early on? And the reason why I like to ask that is so that people watching can avoid some
Hmm.
of those early pitfalls that maybe you would have done differently.
Yeah, for sure. So like when I first got into this, um, I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know it was a sales job, sales basically career. Early on, I was all about social media, posting on social media. I actually did more sphere of influence early on than what I'm doing now, and that's probably a mistake on my end. But I was just sending Facebook messages, Instagram messages, posting a bunch of stuff on social media early on, and that was not bringing in anything.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
was that, to be fair though, that was probably contributing to your sphere of influence business though? Like I would make the
sure.
argument that now you're probably heavily prospecting based,
Hmm.
and are you not posting as much content as you did before?
I'm not posting nearly as much content as I was doing before. The stuff I'm posting is just super quick, easy. Let me post this just sold. Let me post this just listed. And it's more so to just focus all of my time and energy into the stuff that's like that I feel I'm really, really, really good at. And it's not taking as much mental capacity or time in that sense, which
Yeah,
is
makes a lot of
prospecting.
sense.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So you made a transition from your business to, hey, I'm gonna go from organic content on social media to a prospecting based business. And so let's talk about what that looks like today. So primary lead sources. What are you working right now?
Expireds, FISBOs. I'll do old expireds, old FISBOs if I'm not able to reach them. And then if I feel like I'm having a bad day and not really talking to anybody on the old expireds, I'll hit either absentee or for rent by owners to have more conversation.
Got it. Okay. And one of the questions that people often have, right, when they're working that source of business
Hmm.
is contact rates, right? So you're working new
Sure.
expireds, things of that nature. We know that that's like the lowest hanging fruit in our industry. Can you
Right.
share any best practices when it comes to like increasing contact rates?
Yes. So honestly, most of my business the first 2 years was more FISBOs than expireds. I felt like I couldn't get a hold of any expireds earlier on. And so my first year was probably like 70-30 FISBOs versus expireds. My second year, it was probably still 70-30. Now it's probably 55-45, still FISBOs expireds. But this month and the last 2 months, literally, I have way more. Sorry, I'm getting a call. I got to just reject it. But the last 2 months literally has been so many more expired leads because I'm getting a hold of them.
Yeah. And how are you doing that? Like, because I want to talk about how because what everybody wants
Yep.
to know is how are you converting these leads, right? That's what this whole show is about.
Yes.
And so by 8:15 in the morning, you are already having, I bet you that if we looked at, because we're going to talk about this, but you set just in November, you set, I think you said like 16 appointments or something.
Yeah.
Are the vast majority of those first contact appointments coming between 8 a.m. and 8:15? Like one of the first
One
voices?
1,000%. Yeah.
See, that's
100%.
what I want everyone to take away. You know,
100%.
like that is how important those lead sources are, being the first voice, and that 80 probably percent of the appointments you set in a given month are coming within 15 to 20 minutes of your work. That's what's insane. And so because you start to get into the 8:30 range, 8:45 range, contact rates just absolutely fall off the map. Would you agree?
1,000%. And I would have a phenomenal conversation with somebody at 8 o'clock in the morning, 35-minute conversation. I follow up with them 2 days later to reconfirm meeting with them and don't get them on the phone. I'll text them and they are not interested because
Yep.
they got hounded by like 50 plus realtors.
Yep. That's
And
exactly right.
so, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So where you said you're getting your data from Vulcan 7. Are you getting it
Yes.
from anywhere else or is that where you're using?
It's just Vulcan. So I'll get the new expireds, new FISBOs for buy owners from Vulcan. I will start there with the fresh new leads, and then I'll export that to Mojo to start triple line dialing.
Got it. Makes sense. All
Yep.
right. And then how much time are you spending to prospecting right now? Like on an average day, how much time are you spending?
So the goal, my new goal is about 2.8 is my new goal of what I want to spend. I sit my butt in this chair from 7:45 to about 10:45. Now, on the actual phone, it's probably closer to actually 2 hours in dialing sessions. So about that.
Love it. And how many people are you
Yeah.
typically talking to in that 2 hours?
10 is my average. I want to get that up. So some days I'll have 25, some days I'll have less than 10. But right now my average is 10. I need to get it to 15.
Got it. So you're talking to about 5 people per hour.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, makes sense. That's what I want everybody to hear. If you're calling mainly low hanging fruit, contact rates are lower, but conversion rates are way higher, which we're going to talk about right now. So walk us through. Okay, so in November, like what did your actual numbers look like? Let's start with
Sure.
listings taken, and then we'll kind of break down your sales funnel.
Okay. So listing appointments met to taken is 58% now. My career is 33%. Set to met is 63% right now for November. Leads to appointment set right now is about 64%. Leads per appointment met right now is 43%. Contacts per lead is about 14%. Contacts per hour is 5. And I took 37 listings.
You took 37 listings
Yep.
year
This
to date.
year. Yep. Year to date. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So let's kind of go through some of those.
Okay.
We kind of just talked about your contact rate. You shared some best practices there.
Mhm.
Your lead to appointment set is unusually high, right? I think you said it was 64%.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
most people, like we were talking about before we started, are hovering right around 20%. And I
Hmm.
think that we talked about the reason for that is because you're going after the lead sources. However, what can you share as far as the conversations you're having when you get in touch with somebody that's helping you set the number of appointments that you are? Because what I want
Hmm.
everyone to get is, because most of your business is coming, if I were to ask you, what percentage of your appointments that you set come from the very first contact versus lead follow up? I bet you're going to tell me that most of them come from the
Yeah.
first contact, right?
For sure.
All right. So this is you
Absolutely.
calling somebody out of the blue. They don't know you. You don't know them. And you're able to get them to say, yes, come to my house.
Yes.
Let's really spend time, because that's where the rubber meets the road, on how in the world are you able to do that? So let's start from the beginning of the conversation, maybe with
Sure.
what you're doing with the pattern interrupt. How are you getting the motivation? And then how are you ultimately setting that appointment?
So very beginning is that pattern interrupt. I had an old one that I always used. You released a video recently and ranked your best pattern interrupts, and I literally adapted the one you had ranked as number one. And that has made people like die on the phone, laughing their butts off. And I could share it with you.
Yeah, that'd be great,
Um,
because I've heard your calls and I
yep.
love them. So yeah, why don't we role play? So ring, ring, ring. Hello?
Hey, Brandon.
Yeah, this is him.
Hey, Brandon. My name's Jake. You're gonna hate me. I'm a realtor. Do you want to hang up, or will you give me 30 seconds to tell you why I called?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. And that's what they
That
do.
has been phenomenal.
So, what percentage of the time that
Yeah.
you use that are you able to at least get into the script versus
Yeah.
someone saying, no, 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 I'm good, and they just hang up on you?
North of 90%, I would say.
It's
For
phenomenal.
sure. And I have a really solid lead right now. I used that opener and she was dying on the phone, allowed me to have the conversation. I set the appointment. It was an old expired. And at the end of our meeting, she literally looked me in the eyes and said, the reason I continued that conversation is because you were truthful. You asked for permission. And the fact that you said you just needed 30 seconds, I thought that was hilarious and brilliant. She told me that. So I thought that was like, it's weird.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
So now that you're able to get into a conversation, I think the tough thing for most people, and I often talk about it in coaching calls, which is the bridge between a prospecting call and
Hmm.
sitting in the living room of somebody, is our ability to uncover real and true motivation. So, what can
Perfect.
you share with the audience that helps you to get people to feel comfortable opening up to you so that you can
Hmm.
figure out, does this person actually want to move and can I help them?
For sure. So, getting the motivation is more or less trying to communicate with them. Staying put might be the better option. So, like reverse selling, like you always preach. And so, For example, it would be like, I'm looking at the pictures right now, Brandon. Gorgeous home. Like, why isn't this your forever home? Something
Mm.
like that immediately like guard down and they start telling me everything about why it's not their forever home. Um, the less I try to sell for the appointment and just really talk to them about staying put, or it's just again the reverse selling stuff. It just works really.
Yeah. So you're saying, in other words, instead of trying to use an approach that I think a lot of other agents use, which is why sellers or prospects often say, well, you sound just like everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
is they take this approach of trying to call and convince them why they should sell and why
Yeah.
they should meet with them. What you're
Yes.
saying, so the audience has a aha or maybe a potential breakthrough, is you actually do the opposite of that. You actually make the
Mm-hmm.
argument for why they should not move. And you're
Right.
looking for the prospects who argue against that and explain to you why you're wrong, why they cannot stay there, and therefore they have no defenses, and they open
Mm-hmm.
up and tell you, no, we can't stay here because of this reason, this reason, this reason. So when you've switched that, have you found that that approach has done, well, just that, help people to really, really open up to you?
For sure. And digging a layer deeper, after they say that, well, why not just finish the basement? Why not add an addition? And push harder and they continue to like go further into why they just have to sell. Same thing with asking them about their previous agent. Like when your
Mm.
previous realtor had given you a call and shared with you why they believed the home didn't sell, what'd they tell you? Well, they didn't. And digging more deeper into that builds further a wedge. Yeah.
That's right. It's so good. It's so
Yep.
good, right? So like someone says to you, well, we've got to get something bigger. Well, instead of jumping all over that, like most agents do, because they've got commission breath, you say, well,
Mm-hmm.
have you considered maybe just putting on an addition? Would that be
Yep.
easier versus having to sell and find somewhere?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've thought about that, but boom, and they just keep selling themselves on their motivation for doing something. Okay. Now, talk to us about the ability to set appointments, right? So that's why we're
Sure.
making the prospecting call, is to get in front of people. So now that
Mm-hmm.
you've got a motivated prospect on the other end of the phone, what is your approach to getting them to invite you to come over to interview to take the listing? Like, what are you saying? What's your approach? What's your mindset?
Sure. Sure. So you taught us the hook. The hook has been phenomenal. Basically putting out there, basically more or less like I get the feeling, Brandon, that even if you were to receive an offer now that made sense financially, that's not even something you're looking at now, right? Like you're going to tell me you're waiting a few years to revisit this, right?
No, no,
And
no.
they'll
I mean,
say,
we would absolutely consider something like that right now.
makes sense, Brandon. And honestly, before I go, can I make a quick recommendation?
Of course, sure.
I mean, and I don't know if this would make sense. And if it does, then you'd tell me, right?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, let's pretend we did get together and I were to share with you a plan that was completely different from your previous realtor. And it blew you away, Brandon. Like it genuinely blew you away. You truly believed you can get the home sold for top dollar and get south the way you want. Is there a downside in exploring that a bit more?
Um,
Because let's be honest, Brandon, seriously, like you're not going to do anything unless it makes complete sense, right?
that's true. That's a great point. Yeah, it's
And
awesome.
and so yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. So this is the difference, and I want the audience to get a takeaway from this, is the difference between pushing and pulling, right? And so most people approach that with like, well, let me come over, let me come over, let me come over, let me just show. That's their approach, right? And I used to have that approach 15, 16, 17 years ago, and what you're doing is you're actually communicating in a way that actually gets the prospect to pull from you. You see, the way you're
Mhm.
positioning that is, one, it fully supports their autonomy. In other words, they have the perception that they are absolutely in control, so that they don't feel any sales resistance. That's all strategic.
Mhm.
So they don't feel any pressure, and you're getting them to actually invite you to actually come over to the home versus you begging to come over to the home. So that's how you've been able to set, because like last month or this month, you've set 16 appointments. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, and you have a very high set to met ratio, because what ends up happening is a
Yeah.
lot of agents get really good at getting people to verbalize that they will meet, but all those appointments cancel. You actually
Mm-hmm.
have a 63% set to met. Talk to us about what you're doing in that part of your sales process that allows you
Right.
to actually meet with the people who say they want to meet with you.
So honestly, before it wasn't always like this. So like before, I would never disqualify an appointment. Meaning like ask them at the end of the call, give them permission to really just say, look, I actually don't want to meet with you. I just wanted to get you off the phone type of deal. So like disqualifying the appointment at the very end has been super, super, super helpful with that. But immediately, as soon as the phone hangs up, and I already set the expectations of what the next steps are, it's intro email, video text sent, throw it on our calendars, ask them on the phone call. And I need to start doing this again. I haven't recently, but ask them on the phone call, hey, when I send that calendar invite over to you, can you do me a favor just so I know you got it and confirm it? So I'll do all of that. I'll send that intro, mailer out. And then a day or two later, I'm going to add some value to them before our appointment.
Yeah, can you give us an idea? And that's phenomenal, right? So you disqualify the appointment, make sure it's a real appointment. It's not a polite way to get you off the phone. They
Right.
actually want to meet. And then you
Yeah.
just walk through the steps of what you do after they said yes. So everyone's writing
Yep.
that down. And then when
Right.
you say give them some value a day or two before the appointment, can you give some context to what you mean?
I'll do it for FISBOs because my expired, I'm just now actually getting through to these people. So I have to create my own systems for expireds. But for FISBOs, it will be as simple as, and I stole this from the FISBO king, Austin. Austin.
Austin, yeah.
I'll go in Canva. I'll take their pictures from FISBO. I'll create it on like a little like one pager house information sheet, and it looks awesome. I'll print out six of them, send a picture of the overhead, and say, "Hey, Megan, looking forward to meeting with you. I did do some work for you. I'm going to provide these to you tomorrow at our appointment." I used to, and I stole this from Asher Black, send my dad out and I'll send crumble cookies before the appointments. And those, I only did that if they were booked out kind of far in advance. But I'd
Yeah.
send those crumble cookies before the appointments. And now it's like, how can they possibly cancel on me at this point?
That's
So I would
right.
do that before the appointment as well. The video texts have been super helpful
Yeah, I mean that's
as
great.
well.
And so when I was coaching Asher, we talked. We would do a hot pizza on the night that you set the appointment
It's
because it's
so
like, dude,
cool.
you just sent me dinner. Like I can't just be a total flake and just
Yeah.
cancel, like just flake on you. Can't do it. Just curious on the FISBO appointments you're setting. If I'm
Yeah.
sitting there in the audience, one of the questions I would have would be, what approach are you taking with FISBOs? Are you able to set quality listing appointments on the first call,
Hmm.
or are you setting a preview appointment or somewhere in between?
So if I'm setting an appointment, usually my go-to is like share with you my opinion about the property. Also, I'll share with you my for sale by owner backup plan in the event you'd want something to fall back on. And I'd run that play for the most part. I try to set actual listing appointments, but most of the FISBO appointments are through follow up
Yeah, yeah, for
because they're not
sure.
ready to do anything. They're not really going
Yeah.
to do anything. Yeah.
So on the front end of a for sale by owner, you're running like a hybrid appointment where it's like, hey, I'll just come there and
Yeah.
show you something to fall back on. That
Yeah.
appointment's again, it's a really good opportunity. You can get in front of somebody, and so that's a whole nother episode. But I was just curious. Okay, now, so that's a really good strategy for your appointment set to appointment met. Let's talk about the listing appointment itself, right? The
Sure.
actual presentation. You have a 58% conversion, which is really, really good. So if you go
Now.
on, yeah, now, and it was 33% before. The national
Yeah.
average, NAR comes out with it every year, it's still at 25%. So
Hmm.
most agents, it takes them 4 listing appointments to get one. And
Right.
so you're more than double that conversion. So if we
Right.
could spend, I don't know, 5 minutes or so talking through what are you doing at the listing presentation such that the person feels compelled to hire you? What are maybe 2 or 3 things you can
Yeah.
share?
So one thing that has helped with my appointments is again qualifying the appointment and setting expectations. Look, if at the end of the day it doesn't make sense, you have no issue shooting me straight, right? And
Right.
if it does make sense, you don't have any issues getting started with the paperwork. I started using that, so it's a better appointment up front. At the appointment, I'd show up super professional, I stopped wearing polos. It's basically suit and tie, which is good. But super respectful, build rapport during the walkthrough, and then at the very beginning, when we sit down to have the conversation, setting expectations up front and giving them the ability to tell me no at the end has been a game changer. Has been a game changer. Setting
Let me
those
just pause.
expectations.
Let me just pause there. I totally agree. Like, if everybody in the audience can, and I guess let's just replace the word with expectations to agreements. And that's what you're doing. It is, I can't, it's hard for me to find the words on how powerful it is when you're on the side of the table as the perceived sales guy that most people would say, you want something from me, to be there and say, listen, if this doesn't make sense, can you do me a favor? Can you actually just tell me it doesn't make sense? I'm perfectly okay with that answer. When you do that, like, you're talking about walls of defensiveness crumbling. Because 100%. When a salesperson hides behind that ability for someone to say no, all that they're doing is they are setting up a way where the prospect can only be defensive. If all the prospect feels is that you're trying to sell them and you're trying to get them to say yes, even if they want to say yes, you have done so much harm to yourself. And so starting off a conversation that no is perfectly acceptable, and not only is it perfectly acceptable, that you fully anticipate that to be a potential reality, and you're okay with it, allows somebody to just to breathe, be comfortable. They're not having to worry about being sold, and then they just pour their guts out. Do they not?
I could not agree more. It's like, it's almost as if they're like, okay, I can relax now. As soon as and it's awesome too, because like you set them up with, please tell me no if it doesn't make sense. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. And then you go to the other side of it. And if it makes sense,
honest. It's so
don't say no.
Yeah, it's just people aren't used to that type of transparency. They're just not. They're not used to us meeting with a salesperson and the salesperson being the one. Listen, there's a good likelihood that it will not make sense for us to work together. Like, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I know that. That's so refreshing for a prospect to say, holy crap. And so, all right, so you set this up really, really nice where the prospect can just feel comfortable with you. Is there anything else during the presentation? Then we're going to open this up for live Q&A, by the way, that you feel really, really makes an impact during that conversation?
For sure. So then I get permission to be brutally honest, even if it's something that they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Getting into your specific presentation, TAM, buyer activity report, whatever you want to call it, that has been phenomenal, because it talks about something that no other agent really is talking about in the sense of price bracketing. But also the actual going over the comps has been, in my opinion, how I do it has been phenomenal. I do what you do and kind of more or less talk about the TAM, the numbers, the comps, but I go harder with spending more time on my comp. So you have the one pager, but I cover price. I don't share with them what that price is. I say bed count, bath count, location, square footage, all similar, right? Yes. I move on and I get to the interior, exterior pictures of it, and I'm still covering up price. And I have them pretend to be my buyer as I'm their buyer agent and guess what the heck these homes are selling for. And it allows them to think what the price should be. They get hit with reality, and now they're thinking through the lens of a buyer. That's been phenomenal, and just being super transparent, even if we're 50,000 off. They want 50,000 more. When I tell them that it's worth 50, 75,000 less, they thanked me at the end. They said it takes balls to tell me that my house is worth that much less, and I respect you for it. It is a game changer, because now they truly know that you're detached from the outcome, because you are.
That's right. Yeah, it's so good. So one, you talked about the active buyer, this buyer exercise that you walk them through, so the seller can put the buyer hat and look through the lens of how buyers are going to look at their homes, not through the seller's lens of how they look at their own home. Huge.
Bingo.
I hope everybody's doing that, right? We spent, I don't know, a couple weeks last month really going through that in the live training workshop. And then the other thing, to your point, is because you've set the conversation up such that they want you to be so forthcoming. Now
Yes.
it's easy to tell people the truth. Hey, remember when at the beginning we talked about my willingness to be 100% forthcoming? Well, here's one of those times. And I want to talk about price. So then they don't get mad at you. And now it's not this back and forth conflict. You're able to shoot them straight and get them to thank you for it.
Yes.
And because what do most agents do? Most agents want to buy the listing by taking it over price to say, yeah, I think we can definitely work with that price, knowing damn well.
Used to do it.
So every agent does. Every agent does, because they don't know how to confront sellers in a way that's actually like productive. It just turns into an argument. So they're like, I'll just take this listing at whatever price I can. So the pricing presentation is what you're talking about, right? And that's like the meat and potatoes of a presentation. You do that right. Let me ask you a question. You do that right. How often do people say, well, what are you going to do to sell my house? You probably don't even get those questions anymore because of how you're able to position it. Yeah.
Nope. I had that. I asked you one day about whether or not, and I don't think
I remember this.
I used to present a bunch of features and benefits, the reverse prospecting list. It's going to be on Facebook. It's going to do all this. And it's shit. It's shit.
I know.
It's not it. And so I turned it around. I completely went with your presentation. For my peace of mind, I had all that stuff packed there on the back end. And not once did people ask me about marketing, and I had to go to it. It's just, he knows the market. He's a professional, and he really knows this area and how to actually get this home sold.
That's exactly right. And so I'm going to just end on this, and then you guys, if you have questions, go ahead and raise your yellow Zoom hand. It's because when your presentation lacks the depth and the demonstration to the seller that they believe you are a real market expert, well, then you have to hope that your marketing is impressive enough to impress the seller. But oftentimes it isn't, because there's this knowledge bias that's going on where you talk about it's going to be on Facebook. We're going to do 3D tours. We're going to do open houses. The seller's like, I've heard all that before. That is not impressive. And so then, therefore, you commoditize yourself. They say, well, you sound just like everybody else. So what do you charge for all that? Well, I charge 6%, 5%, whatever. It's like, whatever number you say is too much, because you have not differentiated yourself. Where your presentation has depth and the sellers feel your expertise. And again, for the audience perspective, you don't have that much context, because we can't spend 4 hours of going through the pricing presentation. But when you can do that in a way, the prospects feel comfortable with you representing them in the sale of their home. And all of the fluff, the BS, the this, the that, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant because I believe you know what you're doing. And agents that don't have any depth, they have to hope and pray, okay, if I can talk about this website and that website, hopefully I can get past talking about the marketing fluff. That makes no difference whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
All right. So if you guys have questions, appreciate you breaking all that down. We just went through your entire sales funnel, how you're able to do this. How many listings did you actually take in November, by the way?
In November. So I just got off the call earlier this morning, and they are hiring me. So if I get that one signed, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7.
That's great. It's an awesome month.
Yeah, it is. It's one of my better months.
It's one of your better months, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's a phenomenal job. And again, you set 16. How many did you go on this month?
So actually I have it right here. So I went on appointments, set 16, met 9, seller sign. Right now it's currently 5. I expect it to be 6 shortly.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good month from a conversion standpoint too. Like your conversion's getting better. Okay. What questions do you guys have for Jacob while we have him? We've got 15 minutes to answer any question that you have. If you have any questions, you can just raise your yellow Zoom hand. We'll get you unmuted, and you guys can ask Jacob directly. Looks like you've done such a great job that people don't have any questions this week. Oh, there we go. Okay. Let's get you, Fassandra. There you go.
Yes. Exactly. Hey, Brandon. Hi, Jacob. Thank you, first of all,
Hello.
for taking the time. Um, a very quick question. You appear super confident and also like really nice. So my question is, I am like 2 months since I got my license and 2 weeks since I
Sure.
joined the program. What has been your script like, or even just this conversation practice routine?
Right.
And also, it's two-part question. How have you like how has this journey like been for you building your confidence from like
Sure.
being brand new year one and today you're just, you've got such great energy. It's really cool to see.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm still a baby in the business. It's only been 3 years. My first year, I was managing a full-time job when I got into the business. The only reason I got in was because of COVID, actually.
Mhm.
I worked for this Department of Labor, and so early on, they went basically 3 days out of office. I could work from home and 2 days in. So I literally was watching Brandon YouTube videos and making my calls during all of my breaks, my lunch break. I'd literally take my laptop, I'd go to my car, I'd pull it up, I'd make calls from the car, and then after work, I'd make calls. Initially, to answer your question, was all preview appointments. I
Mm.
wanted to get comfortable in front of people and not promise, like, not try and sell them at all. So I was just getting in
Mm.
front of people to have this preview appointment. And while I was there towards the end, I would hit them with like, basically more or less like, do you want to check out a for sale by owner backup plan in the event you want something to fall back on? I'd prepare for a listing appointment, but I'd go on the preview appointment. If they weren't ready, great. But I was there to just give value and help out. I
Yeah.
eventually got really confident in being in front of people where now I was shooting for listing appointments. That's what
Mhm.
I'd recommend to anybody who's not as confident. Previews first, build your
Yeah.
confidence, and then go on listing appointments.
Super. I love that. That's like reverse confidence building in a way. So
It
that's
is.
that's really cool. Thank you, Jacob.
My
Great
pleasure.
stuff.
Oh, can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To get way more confident in the conversation you're gonna have,
Yeah.
know everything about that FISBO, that expired house, everything. Know how many acres, bed count, bath count, square footage of the basement, maybe anything local, anything unique about the property. Hey, I saw that the HVAC was just updated, right? Is that accurate? The new roof, that's a new roof, right? Like you volunteer that during your walkthrough, and you all of a sudden share with them, oh, they don't have to tell me anything about the HVAC, about the roof, about this, about that, because I already know. That alone, you know more about their house,
Yeah.
you're golden. That
Yeah.
gives you confidence. And then of course get comfortable with your comps.
Yeah. Okay. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
I'll add one thing too for Sandra as
Yeah.
you're going, and then John will come to you. Just always, when it comes to confidence, I think that this is really important. I wasn't going to say anything, but I have to add this just from a coaching perspective. Confidence is actually a result of action.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a precursor to action. So most of the time people are looking for this unfounded confidence to go out there and take action. Confidence comes as a result of taking action. So never forget that.
Mm-hmm.
The more you do it, that's why I always say the learning's in the doing. I should be saying the confidence is in the doing. So the
Yeah.
more
Yes.
appointments, the more calls, the more you do it, the more
Yeah.
confident you'll be. Because here's what people do. It's easy to understand this from an intellectual standpoint. Most people don't do anything. They think the confidence is going to come
Right.
from preparation. And they're like, I keep prepping, but I still don't feel good. I keep prepping, I keep practice. And all they're doing is they're building up their anxiety, getting less and less and less confident. So
Yeah.
confidence comes as a result of action, not a precursor.
Yeah.
Well
I
said.
love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
Uh, hey Jacob, what's going on, man?
What
So,
up, John? Long time no see, man.
so I got the question to prospect with you with the prospecting games, and I already know the answer to this, but I know a lot of people will benefit from this. There's a constant education factor with you, and I can see it with your callings and through your calls and the way you handle your calls. So, can you tell the people the videos you're constantly watching within the program itself, not the free ones that's out there, the
Sure.
ones we always talk about, hey, go watch this, go watch that. This really helped me. Can you break that down for the people? I'll
Yes.
hang up and listen.
Yeah. I'll start with the free stuff and then I'll go within the program. The free stuff, when I first got into this, I literally listened to every single podcast Brandon had with a success realtor call, every single one. And I took all these notes and I re-listened to them, re-listened to the scripts, and I just implemented a lot of that stuff. Now, getting into his paid stuff, his game film, breaking down every call and explaining why you say it with this tonality, with this upswing, it's just so impressive, the level of detail Brandon's able to communicate. And I try to really, really think about that stuff constantly. And then I try to just practice it, obviously. But the game films are phenomenal for really getting good at tweaking how you're having your conversations on the phone.
And that's why we're bringing those back live. And I know you guys are all excited for that. So I agree. And I've said it for years. It's probably the number one thing that I do that will help the most, John. And I know you know this, John, but for everybody else in the community, and that's why they're so important. That's why we're bringing them back to be live on Fridays. Like, I agree with you, Jacob. Like, if you study, this is where I'm really like, where the rubber meets the road is like, all the training will prepare you to pick up the phone and have it. But on that conversation will determine whether or not you spin your wheels or you actually get the result. And so, spend as much time. We have so many of them for you to go back and listen to, by the way, as well.
And when I say study, really study it. Like, for example, like Brandon doesn't like constantly coach this specific feedback that I heard, but like someone will voice pain. And Brandon purposely will say, wait, what was that? And they'll say it again, even more pissed off. Something as little as, I think he said that probably once or twice. And I took that and I'm like, that's phenomenal. Like, it's just those little things help so much. It really does. Those game films are good.
Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, Jacob.
Hey, Mark.
When it comes to the beginning of the conversation, I'm sure, the pattern interrupt and asking for permission, most people get that down pretty quick. Have you found that adapting what type of question you ask next has helped more in like your conversions with the expireds?
Can you ask that again?
So like after you get permission and you assume that the house hasn't sold on the expireds, have you found a certain type of question has allowed you to move forward more often?
Yeah, for sure. So it'd be like, Mark, Mark, hey, Mark, my name's Jake, local area, yada, yada, can I have your permission, yada, yada. After that, I saw the home came off the market, and I'm assuming that's because it's sold, right? I say it just like that. I stick to the script, and that seems to work. No, it did not sell. My next one is the script. Oh, okay. Is that because you didn't get any offers? The offers you received were super low, or was it something else?
Okay, so you're sticking with ABC?
I stick with it. I'm super comfortable with it. And sometimes I'll like go off of that because sometimes prospect catches me off guard and I have to figure it out. But I really, really use that script because it's the quickest path from A to Z. I stick to it, but sometimes I get out of it.
So Mark, speaking about game films, we just did one of Jake's calls.
Hold on.
No, I thought it was good, dude. I thought it was really
Thanks,
good.
Man.
If you guys simply just go to the classroom and click on game film or call review vault, Jake's is the one I just did. I posted another one today. This is like 26 minutes worth of really, really good tactical technique work. Like, I would study this. So much people are like, where's the Jake Scott call? Where's the Jake Scott? I mean, all of these are really good. This one is, I would say, Jake's, you can hear the latest techniques that we've been teaching. Spend some time really studying this call if you can.
Yeah, for sure. And I use the ABC. I'm real comfortable with it. And it's usually after that they start to say, oh, well, I'm going to relist or that. That's when that objection or transition point tends to come in my calls. So that's why I was asking if you like got in front of it before that, or if like you were seeing the same thing type of deal.
You're saying after you use an ABC call or ABC question, they say, we weren't getting any offers, so we're going to just stay put, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think that's what he's asking, Jake. So like, where do you take the call from there typically?
Oh, okay. So basically, I'll go the no, you didn't get any offers. Yada, and we're just gonna stay put. Oh, okay. So you didn't get any offers? They'll
No,
elaborate.
nothing. Yep.
Yep. And then I'll say, oh, okay. I mean, I am curious, Brandon, when your previous realtor had given you a call and shared with you, hey, the home's coming off the market. I know our contract expired, but like, here's why it didn't sell. What'd they say?
Yeah. So I think
I
the point is that's so Mark, if you follow the new expired script, it will walk you through exactly what to do. So when you get these objections, if you can just really focus on the ARPing strategy of like totally acknowledging them and responding by
yes.
pivoting to the next question in the script, it'll do wonder. Don't try to recreate what to say. Literally just pivot to the next question in the script. That's how it's designed to get them to open up.
I have gotten people picked up the phone. I don't know how many times I have to tell a realtor I'm not listing this house for sale. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I if I were getting 1,000 calls, like I probably wouldn't want to talk to a realtor at all. I was honestly just calling to see if, like, I assumed your home sold, right?
Bingo.
Just bingo.
And that allows them for that conversation to lengthen. So don't
Bingo.
try to recreate anything there, Mark. Just follow that framework and it'll help you out tremendously.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
If you listen to all these calls I've been doing on the game films recently, most of the time, even the one today I just posted this morning, it comes out of the gate that the prospect says, literally verbatim, the prospect says, this was on Zach Shepard's call. Nope, you know what? It didn't sell and I'm staying put, but thank you. And it ended up being a 20-minute call where he generates a phenomenal lead. So go listen to that one, right? To Jacob's point, like those game films are really, really special. All right, we got time for one more. Is there anybody else out there that has any question for Jacob while you got him right now, front and center? Yeah, Xavier, go ahead.
What up, Xavier?
I didn't have any question. I just wanted to give Jake his flowers. This guy is a sponge. I'm glad I met him. He is like one of those people that picks up so quick and just implements so fast. And clearly, everything you're doing is working phenomenal. I wish you the absolute best, my friend.
Thanks,
Yeah.
man. And I know you're newer, but you're killing it too, man. You're gonna be a beast.
I appreciate
You
it.
already are.
Yeah, Jacob's super coachable, and it shows in his work. Yeah. All right, Kyle, go ahead.
Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Jake, for this wonderful session, man. I just had one question. Can you just kind of like walk us through your follow-up? I know we talked a lot
Sure.
about your initial, but how does that follow-up look like?
Great
My
question.
follow-up is definitely probably weaker than a lot of agents. For expireds, I'm working on like an email type of campaign. I got to figure something out, or at least just really take a weekend and dive into his material. But for expireds, I have a January through December folder. I'll have that conversation. I'll find out what their timeline is. I'll cut it in half. I will throw them in that folder, and then I will set them up on a buyer competition email or a comparable like home sales email from Bright. That's for expireds. I will now also set them up on Mailbox Power. I started with Mailbox Power and I stopped it. And now that Brandon has taught us how to disqualify leads, I started it right back up because now I'm not wasting money on that type of mail campaign. For my FISBOs, I do the mail campaign. I will do, and I have like a pretty, and I could share it with anybody. Probably an 8-week email template campaign that a lot of that I created from scratch. A lot of it I stole from Brandon's stuff. But for FISBOs, it'll be my call, and the first like a day later, I send them every single listing doc they possibly need: agreement of sale, seller property disclosure, lead-based paint, all of it. Saying, here you go. You might need this when you find a buyer. Hopefully you find this valuable. And then I provide information about what those documents are. The second email is open house flyer, open house this and that. I send them a text. And this is like a weekly email. So every week they get an email of giving value. Every week they get a Bright MLS update on buyer competition. And I stole a lot of the stuff from Austin, but I have the flyer text a few days later. If I didn't set the appointment, I'll send them a flyer for their house to try and get the appointment in that text. Thank you, Austin, for that. Second week is competition watch. So they're seeing all of the properties that are comparable in their price point. So it's just based on the price point around and what their competition is. Third week, Zillow description update. Yeah, it's just stuff like that. That's more or less what it is. It's just value.
Can I just add though, and all of that is great. Would you say that, I don't want to put any words in your mouth, so how can I ask this where I don't influence the answer? Of all the things you're doing, like phone calls, having a voice-to-voice conversation, emails, mailers, flyers, text messages, if you just had to pick one and you only had to pick one, and the one thing that got you the most out of follow-up, like which tactic would you pick and why?
Monday calls, Friday text.
Yeah. So it's the
voice to voice, 1000%. Voice to voice.
Let me just add this. So for anybody that's looking at follow-up saying, man, I need this robust follow. If you had nothing but just a follow-up sequence that was phone calls only, you would get about 90% of the results from your follow-up campaign than if you were to have a mailer, a text strategy, a video campaign, a direct mail piece, this, that, the other thing. That only might get you like 1 or 2 or 3 percentages more than just having a consistent voice-to-voice conversation over time. Would you add anything different?
Could not agree more. My first year, I didn't have any of that stuff. I closed 16 deals. It was Monday calls, Friday texts. I had a full-time job at the time, and that's all I did. Monday calls, Friday texts for pretty much all FSBOs. And I would call them my first lunch break. I'd call them at 8 o'clock at the time. I'd risk losing my damn job by just walking out real quick and making calls. So yeah, the calls, if you just make the calls, you will make the money. That is it.
Because when we look at a business priority, and then we'll end with Daniel. I see your hand, Daniel. I just want to really, really, really emphasize this. Most people want to skip doing the most important thing and saying, how can I just automate follow-up? And then them thinking this mindset of, okay, if I have this really sexy mail campaign, I'll just hit this button and then they'll just call me. That is not what Jacob is saying. And that's not even what's happening. So like, if you just look at all these different things, this pyramid of conversion, the voice-to-voice conversation over this thing that we all want to avoid like crazy is the thing that produces 80 to 90% of the result. All the other stuff can be added on to later to help maybe move it a couple percentage points, but you would never prioritize all the other stuff over the calls. It would never work, right? It would just never work. All right, let's get one more. Not. Yeah, let's get one more from Daniel. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, Jacob, appreciate you, man.
Absolutely, man.
You mentioned in the beginning you were doing a whole lot of preview appointments before you eventually turned the corner. It sounds like into more of a qualified appointment strategy. Curious for you, what indications were you looking for when you made that turn? Like what made you decide, like, you know what, this preview stuff, it's not worth it anymore. Let's double down on qualified appointments.
So Nair, do you remember Nair? Do you remember that name, Brandon? Nair?
Yeah, I do. I don't know. Daniel wasn't here around that point.
He had like a script or whatever, but early on, I went for the previews to get the confidence. Where I turned the corner was because I was going on a ton of previews. So like I was going on a preview like daily, Monday through Friday. And of course they weren't necessarily listing appointments, even the slightest. And so when I started like getting really, really good at setting preview appointments, then I just altered the script a little bit. And I really, really love the script of for sale by owner backup plan in the event you want something to fall back on down the road. I still use it, but I really, really like the new FSBO script that Brandon has for specific appointments. And I'm doing more of that, but sometimes I don't feel it and I'll go for the FSBO backup plan. But when I started setting a lot more preview appointments and I was like, I should just start setting these listing appointments, I went 100% into those.
And was that a pretty smooth transition for you, or was there like a little bit of turbulence in between that transition there, or was it just ramping up? Like
it came down to knowing what the presentation was going to be for the listing appointment for sure, and really being comfortable with your listing appointment presentation. But the hardest part was getting used to the new script and getting comfortable with it. But as soon as you know that script in and out, now all of a sudden it's a lot easier to have an actual conversation, not feel scripted, and actually listen during the call.
Can I offer this approach, Daniel? I love the question. Daniel, this is a phenomenal question. This is a great thing. Hopefully people that stay to the end, this will be worth it for you. So I look at what Jacob has done, Daniel, and what I think most agents should do is there's multiple things happening. All right. So in the beginning of someone's sales career is they probably don't have a ton of prospecting discipline, right? So therefore their volume is very, very low. So what they can do while they're going through that first phase is they can get really good at setting like low quality, high quantity preview appointments, right? That's what I would call phase one. So they don't do that much prospecting because they don't have the muscle, the discipline to do enough volume. So then they go on a bunch of these unqualified appointments strategically. And then what ends up happening is they have this aha. They start to, because confidence is a result of action, they start to see, okay, I've gone on enough of these things where I can hear motivation. I know what motivation sounds like. I know what these conversations, I know what they're going to, I'm not scared to meet with real sellers anymore. So then they say, I just can't go on as many of these as possible. All the while, they're growing their confidence and skills over the phone. So they start getting more volume. And then they get into this phase two, where they say, no, I can't do all of those appointments. And their appointment quality gets even better in phase two. So they start doing a little bit more prospecting, going on less appointments, but the appointments are better. And then finally in phase three, it's their habit and their discipline and their focus around prospecting is so high that they actually have another aha. And they say, because I'm doing so much prospecting and because my skills are so much better now and my confidence is so much better now I can be a little bit more pickier and choosier. I can have more courage to disqualify, whereas before I didn't have that. And in phase three, what typically happens is they do a lot of prospecting and a very little traveling to appointments because those appointments are such of high quality. I would say that's kind of like this three-phased approach on how it happens.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. That's great.
Well said. That was it.
Yeah. So I think that, Ben, we should just document that for people because it's like a really good, because I'd ask you this might help Daniel too, or everybody else. Do you feel like you could have, if you bypassed the whole pain of previewing, that you could have gotten here at the speed that you did? In other words, a lot of people say, well, can't I just skip over the preview phase? Can I just skip over phase 1 and 2? And I'm like, probably not. I mean, it's a very, very unlikely that you could skip over that because of all the upside of phase 1 and phase 2. Yes. Are there a lot of wasted time going on all those preview appointments? Yes. But what you don't understand is how much you're learning in the process of all that failure. So my question for you is, looking back on it, would you have done it differently? Or are you actually happy that you went through all those preview appointments to get all that confidence to know what a real appointment even sounded like?
I would not change it. I would not change from the preview up front and then go straight. I have an agent in my office. He follows your stuff. I told him to buy the course. He won't do it. But
most won't.
He asked me for my opinion. I said, previews first, get really comfortable at being in front of people and just making the calls consistently, and then switch to listing appointments. He went straight for listing appointments. Now he's good. He's really good at implementing your stuff, but I don't know. I feel like there was a lot of learning I did during that time. I really do.
And Daniel, I wouldn't have changed it either. I think you've heard me tell the story where I literally after the first preview appointment I ever went on, and again, I got to end it here, but like in the beginning of my career, I was so focused on quality listing appointment. And dude, that is hard to do when you're new to prospecting, you're new to sales. And so that's just what I was told by every Tom, Dick, and Harry, right? And I couldn't get any of these listing appointments that everyone was going on. So I'm like, you probably heard this story, right? And then I finally was like, dude, this is not working. And so I went on my first preview appointment. This must have been, I don't know, 17 years ago. And I remember on the way back crying because, have you heard this story, Daniel?
No.
Oh my gosh. I'll never forget it. I pulled over at a church parking lot, actually, and I was like thanking God. I was literally crying. I feel like I cracked the code because when I first started, you know, everyone talks about qualify, right? Just go on these qualified appointments. Well, when you suck at sales and you've never made phone calls before and you're new to this, that is so difficult, as you and everybody else knows. So you want to talk about a crusher of confidence. Make calls, right? Like a bunch of them and not get anything. You'd be like, dude, I suck at this, or this just is, I don't know what's going on. So then what ended up happening was, and I'll end on this, I promise, but this is really important, is time and time again, I would talk to prospects for sale by owners, expireds, et cetera, and they'd be like, no, we're not going to sell. We're not going to move. We're not interested in meeting with you. And then literally I drive past that prospect's house and I would see like a for sale sign in the front yard. I'm like, I just talked to this dude and the dude told me he wasn't doing anything. Like, what am I missing? So then finally I'm like, dude, screw this. I'm like overqualifying this. I said, you know what? I'm just going to get in front of people. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to get in front of people. And like, it was like magic. I would talk to a for sale by owner and expired saying, you know what? We're never moving. I'm like, I get it. Why don't I just come over? I kind of share with you kind of what I'm doing, that in the event you change your mind in the future. They're like, all right, fine, come on over. And then I went there, Daniel, and like the person was so different in person than who I thought I was talking to over the phone. I'm like, unbelievable. This person just told me that they're never selling. And now they're giving me tea and crumpets and like, well, what would you do, Brandon, if you were to list our house? I'm like, how many opportunities did I miss because I sucked on the phone? Did I miss in the early days? And then I started to go all in, right, on that strategy. And yeah, that's where the FSBO conversion funnel came from. I had to go on 20 preview appointments to get like 2 or 3 listings, but it was worth it for me at the time. Then it was like 10 appointments to get to 4. Then it was like 6 to get to 4. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what ends up happening over time. That's all.
That's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no worries. All right, dude, Jacob, thank you. I know we went over.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, but that was such a good episode, man. I think people got a lot out of it, so we really appreciate you doing it.
I appreciate being here, man. I really do, and I appreciate everything you poured into the community. Seriously,
100%. We're just getting started, my friend. So you guys have a great Thanksgiving with your families. We'll pick back up here soon. Appreciate your guys' time today. You guys take care.
See you guys.